Willie D Live.
What's up, family? The state of Florida presented a confident picture of a meticulously planned hit orchestrated by members of a rival gang that killed rapper Julio Foolio. 4 co-defendants have already met their fate. 4 co-defendants, 4 life in prison without parole. Now the 5th one, known by many as, or considered by many as, the setup girl, the mastermind behind all of this. Alicia Andrews. Yeah, she was in court today, fam. She learned her fate, and it was not all good, fam. That smile was temporarily, at least, wiped off her face. I want you to check out in court with her lawyer. Pay attention to the lawyer too, fam. She's laughing it up, her and her lawyer. And her lawyer actually, I think, provoked her into the laugh, which is, it makes you want to take a really closer look at him, right? See, off rip, the lawyer should know better. The lawyer should know that this ain't time for no laughing and giggling and stuff. This is a serious matter. I got a client who's about to go to jail for a long time. Even if he thought it was funny, he shouldn't have shown it. He shouldn't have done anything to provoke her into laughter. He should have let her know, look, I need you to look remorseful. I know you don't give a damn. I know you're a gangster. I know you're a killer. I know you're wicked. But for the moment, I need you to act like you got some damn sense, because, we need a little public sympathy here, you get you a GoFundMe or something going, like Chud the Builder, something like that, we're gonna need that, Haven't you seen what Sean Gatwright did? We're gonna need something like that. So I need people to like you. But I digress. The state called Julio Foolio's mother to the stand, and here's what she had to say.
To the Honorable Judge, my name is Sandrikas Mays, and I'm the mother of Charles Jones, known to many as Julio Foolio. I stand before this court carrying a pain that no mother should ever have to endure. My son was more than a rapper or a public figure. He was my child. He was deeply loved by his family, his friends, and the people whose lives he touched. Since the day he was taken from us, my life has never been the same. The actions connected to this case did not just take one life. They destroyed an entire family emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. My son was hunted, followed, and ultimately murdered in what authorities describe as a coordinated plot involving multiple individuals. It is extremely painful to hear Alicia Andrews portray herself as someone who didn't know what was going on. While evidence and testimony showed she traveled with the others, tracked my son's movements, and remained involved throughout the events leading to his death. Whether she pulled the trigger or not, my son would still be alive today had people not participated in carrying out this plan. A mother lives with instinct and intuition, and mine tells me that this was not ignorance. This was participation. It was calculated. They planned it. On my way driving here, every second, every minute, every hour, they could have changed their mind. They could have turned around, but yet and still, they carried on the plan to hunt my son down like a deer in the woods, like they were hunting. This was loyalty to violence over humanity. My son was treated like his life did not matter. He was ambushed and robbed of the chance to grow older, become a father one day, continue his career, and simply live. Every birthday, holiday, and family gathering is now filled with grief. I replay the memories of my son constantly. I think think about his laugh, his voice, and the moments we will never get back. The trauma from this loss follows me every single day. No sentence will ever bring Charles right to me, but accountability matters. Alicia family can see her. They can talk to her. She can see her child, but I can't see my child. I have to go to visit him in a wall at the cemetery. I ask this court to remember that behind every headline is a real family suffering permanent damage. My son's life mattered. He was not disposable. The emotional devastation caused by this murder reaches far beyond the courtroom and will affect my life forever. I respectfully ask the court to impose a sentence that reflects the seriousness of the role Alicia Andrews played in the events that led to my son's death, because she knowingly knew what was going on. Choices were made, and those choices had deadly consequences. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of my son, Charles Jones.
B. Judge, in that section specifically states the defendant was an accomplice to the offense and was a relatively minor participant in the criminal conduct. We believe that applies here. We also believe there are some other subsections that apply, but that one in particular, just based off of the jury's verdict in this case, where there are 4 other co-defendants who were convicted of much higher offenses that were actually facing the death penalty. The state recognizes that there was a difference between those co-defendants and Ms. Andrews, and the fact that they were convicted and are likely to be sentenced or will be sentenced to life in this case. Ms. Andrews' goal, after having read all the transcripts and gone through the trial, is very much minor when compared to those co-defendants in this case. So we're asking the court to go below the guidelines. The reason why I cited or filed a motion to take judicial notice of the 8 cases that I did send over to the court is not because those cases are mirror images of this case. This case is probably a unicorn. I'm not, based off of the motions that we filed, right, the motions for new trial and motions for reconsideration, Judge, we obviously believe that the facts of this case don't amount to a manslaughter charge. There was no manslaughter here at all in this case. And that was argued out in the motions, and so I won't go over that. But this case, to find another case that's exactly like it, was not really our intent, but we don't know that would actually ferret out. But that's not really our intent. The intent of filing a motion to take judicial notice of these 8 cases is to see a range of different sentences for people who've been convicted of either manslaughter or some sort of act that resulted in a death that wasn't an intentional act. And so all of those cases, if we go down the list, right, state Florida versus Bango Stedman, that individual received 7 years in the Department of Corrections, followed by 8 years of probation. He scored exactly the same amount of total sentencing points as Ms. Andrews. And in that instance, he made a statement, a spontaneous statement at the scene to officers that he shot him. I shot him, were his words, right? In a situation like that, that's obviously more egregious than any acts that Ms. Andrews is accused of doing or committing. Going down the line, Francisco Vallejo, state of Florida, that was a 2000 case. In that situation, the victim was shot numerous times outside.
Okay, let's get to the meat, fam. Let's get to it.
For reasons that are cited in the motions, the replies, Ms. Andrews will be taking an appeal on the case, on the jury decision and the rulings that were made in the trial, right? And so she does intend to have a new trial if the appellate court grants it. So she's not testifying here today, and no one else, no witnesses are testifying here today for that reason. So we're asking the court not to take into account the fact that Ms. Andrews is not on the stand testifying or that her parents are not on the stand testifying on her behalf. We're asking the court to depart below the guidelines to give her a credit time served and followed by 5 years of probation.
All right. Anything else on either side before I impose sentence?
No, Your Honor.
No, Judge.
All right. So the court, having obviously reviewed the trial transcripts, the court file, all the evidence in this case, the pre-sentence investigation report, the argument of counsel, it's the judgment sentence in order this court to adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence her to 15 years in the Florida State Prison. You have 30 days to appeal.
Look, fam, as far as I'm concerned, this chick should have gotten 30 years for just laughing in the courtroom. She should have gotten 30 years just for laughing. Man, you up on a manslaughter case and you're laughing, not once, not twice, but several times, just thinking it's a game. Even before this court hearing, she was laughing. She thinks it's funny. The chick is pure evil. She should have gotten a good 30 years just for laughing. Yeah. Now, the chick, as far as I'm concerned, is a mastermind. At the very least, she's a setup chick. It was her boyfriend, Isaiah Chance, who was also convicted and sentenced to a life sentence without parole. The investigators identified him as the central coordinator of the fatal ambush of Julio Foolio. She was the chick who offered her car for them to do the killing. So her car was used, her phone was used to track Julio Foolio's movements. Without her, one could argue this don't happen, or at the very least, they're gonna have to find some other type of alternatives, because she said, I'm out. I'm not helping y'all. I'm not tracking him. I'm not letting you use my phone. You can't use my car to go kill him, right? Without her, it really don't go down, right? At least the killers have a stumbling block to get over. Come on now, fam. Yeah, that's a life sentence to me. She should have gotten it. She should have gotten at the minimum what they got. Yeah, at the minimum. Because normally, if you're the mastermind, you get the most time. But I guess they gave her a break because, she's a female. So I don't know. But I do know this also. The mother was crying. The mother was hurt. The mother now knows what those other mothers feel like. The mothers who Julio Foolio whose sons were being taunted by Julio Foolio. Now that mother knows, his mother knows what those mothers feel like. Same thing make you laugh and make you cry. Julio Foolio was not innocent in this. They say that if the mothers, Julio Foolio's mother said, if at any time they could have decided that they wasn't going to go through, they wasn't going to carry the murder out, right? At any time they could have turned around. Well, and if they had done that, her son would be alive. Well, her son would also be alive, one could argue that, if he had not participated in taunting the dead. Because this allegedly was retribution for him making fun of one of the dead homies on the other side. How many times have we seen this? These youngsters out here making fun of the dead and making songs about it, getting a little temporary fame behind it. Oh man, you real, that's hard, that's real, that's real. You can't even go perform this shit. You can't you got a hit song that you can't even perform. Because the moment you show your head, they're gonna knock it off. So yeah, the chick, she should have absolutely gotten more time. She ain't no more innocent than the rest of them. But what say you, fam? Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. No more talk.